Hello, everyone. Welcome to another week of our Why Black Lives Matter discussion. We're very happy to be here, and today we wanted to talk about, I guess, Black love, and how it is perceived today, and what are the blocks around Black people in romantic relationships. So we have talked about Black love a little bit in our Black Lives Matter chat, personal chat, and what we see today on social media, I guess, is a lot of defensiveness around Black people and the subject of dating people of other races, of other ethnic groups, or dating inside their own community. And it's actually a whole big debate nowadays. So there are definitely a few things to hear about that. And yeah, we wanted to talk about it today. So I wanted to ask my fellow team members what they think about like this sensitive subject of dating in our own race or dating outside of our race, and if they had any experience related to that.
Yeah, so one of the things I think is probably a good idea to do is just also to just delve a little bit more into contextualizing how we got to this point in terms of the topic that we feel is appropriate today. And it was just this whole question of, is Black love different to white love? And also, a response from one of the people on that post, just sitting in a very defensive energy, saying, well, excuse me, for as long as we can remember, Black families have been torn apart systemically by fathers having to go away to work, and families being torn apart, communities not being together. One of the other things that kind of stood out for me was also that the energy of identifying with the struggle in your relationship because of a struggle related to your overall community. And so, like the thing that, like when I read this, for me, it was quite an energy of almost sadness that there is this requirement to even define whether white love or Black love is, and Black love are different things, and how that plays out. And like what you were saying, Yoreen, around just, feeling into the space of experiencing love within racial groups and across racial groups. Look, I'm from South Africa, so I feel like there's still quite a separation or a line between how comfortable people across race groups are in terms of settling into loving relationships, into romantic relationships. And I was actually chatting to a friend of mine's mother, who is now in her late 60s. And she was actually she was dating a guy that's kind of, what I think she said, about 8 years younger than her, from a different race group. And just the energy of feeling like it's like there's no real support for mixed relationships because of culture and background and what people have experienced in the past. And it kind of struck me as quite interesting because while I've seen mixed races, like mixed racial relationships, I've seen it amongst younger people, not necessarily older people. And for lack of a better definition, older people aged 50 and above. I've never really seen that. And where you do see it, it's very, it's almost scarce. It's like a finding a unicorn kind of thing. And here's somebody who's saying, well, you know what? I wish everybody would get over it. I wish everybody would allow me to be free to love who I want to love. And that struck me as some very progressive energy, because like I haven't really seen it or even spoken to somebody in that age group sharing that kind of view. So it was actually quite a healing conversation, in the fact that somebody was saying, let me honor my love. It's really got nothing to do with you. It's not a community project. Let me honor my love.
Did you wanted to chip in and say something?
Not at this moment, no.
Okay. Well, yeah, I understand. I think it's a good continuation of where we left off last week. When I was talking about my grandmother asking if I was dating someone Black, especially a French Caribbean person. And yeah, I can see how Black love, I think at first it's like a very American concept, but I can see how Black love is like related to struggle and related to the desire of people of having and seeing united Black families, more united Black families instead of broken homes. But as you said, it is not a community project. I think people need to understand that love is not a skin color thing. Even though like physical attraction can be based on like traits and skin color for some people. But yeah, I was watching Crazy Rich Asians yesterday, which is a film on Netflix. Yeah, you see it, and it's funny because God always like attracts me to the movies that are perfect for the lessons I'm having at the moment. I was with this sense of like a mother would not let a son date someone that was even half Chinese because the perfect bride needed to be Chinese from Singapore and wealthy and have the same struggle as them. And there was a sense of like betrayal or the sense of like the guy being taken away from the community because he married someone different from the expectations of his culture, of tradition. And so yeah, I find it's really a bizarre thing, like concept that love, especially between people of color, is a community thing, and that it has to represent and strengthen some kind of bond inside the community, which I can understand inside families, because there are heirlooms and inheritances. But at the same time, yeah, it's taking away what is truly important, like love on the inside. and not through external attributes. And it's also having a lot of painful results, including like the sense of trouble and betrayal when people talk about this topic, and also this defensiveness in the public debate today. So yeah, I think there's really a lot to unpack there. It's a very weird result of like cultural things, you know.
Yeah, like when you say that, I just like it for me. Still, it's the energy of identifying still quite significant with struggle. Like it almost becomes the identity, and I find it like I have like heard components of it in my family, where one of the things that has happened in the last 4 years was my sister's married an Ethiopian guy, and my mother refused to attend her wedding. And the thing that came out of the conversation was like this whole energy of, well, actually, I told you not to marry a black guy. And I'm like, well, kind of, we're very mixed. So, like, which part of our heritage are we denying when we now say something like, don't marry a black guy? Because my family, as I was explaining to you very like last week, like my family is literally like mixed across almost all the race groups in South Africa. So like when you start to tell your kids things like don't marry a black guy, what are you actually saying about your own identity and identifying with where you are, where you come from and your roots and that kind of thing? And then the other thing that kind of that jogged my memory was also in my 20s. I remember one of my cousins actually saying to one of the female cousins in the family, like, don't date a black guy, I'll find you a colored guy that's like cool. And I'm like, no, what has it got to do with you? How do you get to determine who she chooses to love? Like, you know, and it like my energy has always been the energy of, well, who died and made you God? Like, who died and said you get to decide what somebody else chooses in their life? And it, you know, it really is. It's been something I have said to people for a long, long time, especially where they're in that very judgmental state. It's like, well, who died and made you God? And so for me, it's been a very interesting road, because like I have a lot of friends from a lot of racial groups, and I tend to get along with people quite well, to the point where somebody will sometimes say to me, do you realize that you're the only person of color in this group right now? I'm like, no, but thanks for pointing that out. Like, now I'm aware of it. Thank you so much, you know? And then other times I look around and I'm like, all these friendships tend to be very comfortable. And it's not because we're relating inside or outside of race. We're relating on a very personal level, on a personable level. And so, like I tend to sometimes forget that these nuances in relating to people still exist, because in that space where we're all having a party around the pool, it's got nothing to do with the fact that there's this conglomeration of races. It's just a bunch of friends getting together. And so I often get reminded of these things. And then sometimes I sit back and I go, well, you know, what is that really saying about the mentality of people still in this day and age? Like, you know, like at some point I would almost hope that there's been a progression past some of it. And then when people remind you that, well, hey, you're like, do you realize that you're the only person of color here right now? You're like, okay, maybe there hasn't been that much of a progression right now. and like, I'm always fascinated because it doesn't really matter to me who's around me. If I find a level of connection with the people that are around me, I will find that level of connection. And so I end up being friends with some of the most unlikely people that, like, if I had followed popular thought, I might have discounted them as potential friends or even potential love interests. But because it honestly doesn't quite register until it registers. And then I'm like, okay, so like, is there something there? And I sometimes do ask myself the question of, well, is there something with me, or is there something wrong with the shit that's going on around me?
Hearing your experiences and comparing them with my own, I feel like it's so much like an ego game, because you can never win. I think like in friends, for example, depending on who I am friends with, who I'm hanging out with at the moment, or who I'm dating, I would have someone say to me, well, you're dating the right kid and you're betraying your brothers and sisters. And I'm like, what do you mean? and then, and if I'm dating a black guy, then it's like, oh, well, it's also a judgment, you know? Yeah, I don't know if you guys ever experienced that, but I had a lot of judgment. Like, whoever I'm hanging out with, basically, I've been judged. So it's just telling me that there is nothing wrong with like hanging out with people, whatever race, skin color, is. But yeah, the true like thing that is bothering me at least, is that you would be judged because of your circle of friends or the person you're with, your partner. Um, yeah, yeah, it's like
That's quite a good opportunity for some healing in that space. So do you want to go in there?
yeah, all right.
Yeah, let's just relax in our seat and just take a deep breath there. And let's just find that part of you that's feeling judged within those circumstances. And if you were to ask her, are there any potential places where she's judging herself right now? What would she say to you?
Yeah, I guess she is. Definitely thinking that maybe there's something wrong with her.
Could she possibly just release that energy of judgment for a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
What's actually underlying the energy of judgment right now? What is the feeling underneath?
It's like this unease.
So there's potentially a lack of ease with what life is and who she is in those circumstances. How does that feel?
Yeah, I think there's truth to it. Because like what if she's so different that she's ostracized by the society, you know?
And could she possibly be ostracizing components of herself?
No.
And what would she need to release the energy of ostracization?
I think some safety and confidence.
Hmm. So where does the safety and confidence come from?
Oh God.
That's right. And so can it ever leave her?
No.
Because God never leaves her, right?
Right.
Right. And so if she allows herself to just accept more of her safety and confidence, what does she give herself permission to do?
To live for herself and not for others.
Amen. She also gives herself permission to be more present with herself,
Yeah.
with who she is, with all of herself. And knowing that, how does she feel?
Much better later.
Right. And as that lightness returns, and that partnership with God just solidifies even more, what would she like to choose in her reality?
Yeah. Well, to be only responsible for herself and her choices. Like
Amen.
others.
Amen. And also maybe to accept her divinity,
Yeah.
and that she can release the almost perceived wrongness in those circumstances or situations, right?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, just to release that.
Oh. And in releasing that, she opens up for life to be more expansive and for her to experience life at a deeper level.
Yeah, for sure.
How does that feel?
Much better. Emotional, actually.
Mm. Yeah, it feels a lot lighter. It feels almost like more joy just surfacing as opposed to being searched for, right?
Yeah. Feels like more possibilities. Yeah, ease. Yeah.
Amen. Because that is her birthright. There's meant to be joy and ease and the opportunity for an expansive life. And how does she feel that that's her birthright? She feel that that is her birthright.
Yeah.
Because she is a divine child of God. And so God is not going to constrict her experience of life based on other people's perception of life. And that's
nice to hear.
Yes, it's really nice to hear. And it's really nice to just allow that to sink in. How's she feeling now?
Just allowing the sadness to leave and the joy to return.
And in that space of allowing, can she feel that the energy that she was expending in those places was not necessary. It wasn't required. That our energy could have very much been directed into experiencing the fullness of life as opposed to limiting it. How does that feel?
Feels good. Yeah, it feels good as opposed to questioning it, I guess, or doubting it. Just to live it fully.
Yeah, and as she releases the questioning, does she give herself permission to just embrace it more? How does that feel?
It feels good.
Excuse me. And is there anything else coming up right now in this space?
No, she feels complete.
Awesome. Would you like to just allow all of that healing to just ground in? Just let it settle into your heart space and allow it to be there.
Thank you, Grandpa.
Thank you. That was really good. So I want to specifically ask Anastasia this question because, like, I know you and your twin flame are more a mixed twin flame relationship. So I want to ask you how you've experienced it. And what has been some of your learnings in coming into a harmonious union with your twin flame?
It's really normal. Like, I know that sounds so like funny, but like it also kind of sounds funny to like think of love and like different races and it like being different, you know what I mean? Because like love is love. So yeah. And I also learned like a lot of other stuff like about my blocks and whatnot, like or like maybe he doesn't understand something or I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it, but we definitely like both have our own experiences or point of views or you know like we obviously but it like kind of lines up with something that he's going through, even if it looks like it's something else on the outside for me, like with obviously like interracial relationships has been like basically my whole life. So it's interesting because he like didn't see many different people either growing up because of like where he lived and whatnot. So it also teaches me like that like I say, it sounds really simple, but just like that everybody deserves love. Yeah, it's really that simple, like what I've been learning, because I guess God really is simple. So yeah, it's just I've just learned how healing love is when it comes to all this stuff. You know, sometimes we get kind of I guess like what you like to say, like where it's like, okay, we understand that we're upset, but we don't want to like identify with that. We want to like actually get to the root and heal it. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. experiencing like being in an interracial twin flame union. Yeah, and obviously, is everyone here pretty much almost? I feel like we're all just mixed. Well, because like even Drake, he's, you know, his twin flame's mixed too. She's not black, but she's mixed. So like it's just funny, we're all mixed. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, basically that everyone deserves love is pretty like my whole point.
Yeah, I like what you said, because like, you know, something that I read today was just like how there's sophistication in simplicity. And I think that's something that we could probably just feel into more, is that there's almost in life, and then the way we've just, I mean, just the way we've grown up and the things we've experienced, the things our families have experienced, or it often feels like overcomplication of things. And so, like when you say, well, it's just as simple as, well, everybody deserves love. I feel like there's like just a new level of peace returning into that space, because it literally does just feel that simple. You know, it's like I think it was a couple of weeks ago when you shared Yogananda's conversation with God. And God is like, well, actually, I don't care if you argue with me. Let's talk. You know, it's just it's that simplicity of the acceptance that, hey, I didn't give you this ability to be able to debate things, and then you mustn't use it with me, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, it's something that, it's kind of something that I worked through with Brienne today. It was just like, you know, the simplicity of actually just using the words that are on your heart to use, and not judging yourself for using those words. And just the simplicity of the fact that actually it's much more peaceful when you actually allow yourself to say the thing that you need to say.
Amen. Yeah, because it's like, you know, there's no reason to really like judge anything. Everyone's just trying to gain deeper clarity and deeper truth and awareness, etc., etc. Yeah, so it's good, to be honest.
Yeah, and you know, and like in that energy of honesty, I feel like simplicity is one of those things that's also just it's also quite profound, in the fact that I've found in my life I have tended to overcomplicate things, and I've been surrounded by people that overcomplicate things. And you know, like I'm always reminded about, you know, there's this phrase that goes, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And at some point, because I worked in HR, we got to the point where we were like, what happens in vagueness stays in vagueness. So I'd be very clear, be clear about the expectations, the requirements, be clear. And I think that was what I was kind of working through with my coach today. It was just like, I have a desire for knowledge. I need to know. So like, it's okay for me to go, well, actually, even if God does put this thing in front of me, I am allowed to go, well, what if I don't like it? What if I want something else? You know? It was just that lesson of like, actually, why can't I say that to God? God's way will probably be better, but I can still say like, well, what if I don't like it? You know, like what is that thing?
Yeah, it's like being confident in your relationship with God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that you point out about overcomplicating things, because like I've definitely been working on the same stuff with that too, especially like hearing stuff going on in the world. I've always pretty much had to heal like stuff around like conspiracy theory type stuff, you know what I mean? Because some of that is also like overcomplicating stuff too, like, you know, trying to like piece the puzzle together and be like, oh well, this and this and this happened, and so, you know, but like that's like not gonna like help you to like overcomplicate things either, because, you know, here's the slogan, it's that simple, like you just
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and I do appreciate that
it
you
looks
just
like Yorene's trying to talk.
it's actually simple. Like, let's just get back into that energy of simplicity. And that's why I remember the quote that said that there's sophistication in simplicity. And it, you know, like it stood out. Like just those like 3 or 4 words just stood out. Because it's not something that we get told often. Like, where would we think that because something's simple, it's sophisticated? But I feel like there is significant sophistication in the simplicity of what life actually is. And one of the things that I've been working through is just kind of, well, you know, like accept my life experiences. Like, it's okay. It's actually okay. Accept your life experiences, honor what you're experiencing right now. And I find like the sooner you do honor it, the sooner you transcend it. And it can, you know, like I'm reminded of one of the lessons in the Romance Attraction course, where Shaleia says, you know, like, I'm actually quite happy that I had that false twin flame experience, because I experienced so much contrast that I knew specifically what my love list should be. Like, I wasn't confused about this. And even in that, there's a simplicity to it, right? It's like, yes, like, thank you for showing me all that contrast. You just made it very clear to me that that's not what I want. And so it's easier to start to say what I do want, as opposed to being unclear about it.
I like that because I think the height of like not complicating things is the twin flame journey, because we learn to detach from the physical traits of our twin flame. And I think especially for people of color, it's gonna have to pass through people of color living in Western countries, and mixed countries. It's obviously going to pass through releasing like the color, the skin color of your twin flame, or the gender of your twin flame, or whatever you need to learn and release at that point. And so, yeah, I think it would be really simple to just focus on love. The attributes of love are not first physical, they're internal and spiritual. And yeah, what I find, especially now on this journey, what I find a little bit like too much in this debate about Black love is that how someone dating a white guy or white woman, or dating a light-skinned person or dark-skinned person, is adding to your agenda or your point in the debate. It's literally one person. And sure, like there is some racism and colorism in the way we choose our romantic partners today in society. But like as you said, I think like we in this community are mature enough to know that It's okay to release physical traits. And the less we are going to judge people about like their choice of partners, the quicker we are going to love them into transcending that phase in which they choose partners based on skin color or other physical traits. And so I think it is very much about surrender. The lesson that we have to learn today is very much about surrender and not feeding into the debate, because obviously some debates are important to have, but that one specifically feels like feeding into an unnecessary agenda or drama. And so, yeah, it would feel so much easier, I guess, to not have to be confronted to that, because like the things that are used to illustrate this debate are such menial situations of life, like one couple, albeit a celebrity couple, or one movie, a series, like one example. It's not enough to encompass the whole of the situation, the complexity of the situation, and the beauty of romantic relationships today. Because simply like skin color is not enough to encompass all that there is, and to partnering, being together, and creating a family.
But I also feel like it's like, if that's the only thing there is to it, it also feels like a very almost limited experience of life. So like for me, like if we were all the same, what opportunity would we have to learn? What opportunity would we have to experience the diversity of what the human being is and can be, and what we can be, and what life can be? So like, you know, like that for me, and I know it sounds very cliched, but the variety is what creates more fun in life. And so like, yes, I agree with you that that one experience or that one perception of something is probably not enough to even form an opinion on anything. But like on the flip side, like if there was too much similarity, I feel like it would also possibly feed quite an energy of boredom as well. And that's kind of that's been the thing that I've been kind of working through in the last few weeks, is just like allowing life, like actually allowing life. You know, that little niggle that says, okay, you know, you need to move now and open a window when you're actually on a Zoom call with your coach and kind of thing, or you know, that kind of thing. It's like just the variety of allowing life to unfold, and also allowing life to unfold in your experiences, which I feel like is not necessarily something we would do if we didn't have the diversity of people that we do have, and also that if we didn't make the choice to learn and to know people. And for me, it's a choice. It's literally a choice. Like you can live your life with your head in the sand like an ostrich, or you can live your life with this eagle's view of what life actually is, like literally seeing a lot more than just the view you have from sticking your head in the sand. And so like it comes back to the question of, is love really different amongst race groups? And how do we know that? Do we know that there's a difference in love? Or is it that we have seen so many things in life and in society that makes us believe, that fuels a misperception that there's a difference here?
There is this trend on TikTok about Black women saying, I started dating a white man. Actually, all they are doing are basic couple shit. So it's like, going to a restaurant, going to a gym, cuddling. I was talking about that with a friend. It's like, why say that when you're going to do the same things as any couple? And that's it. That's love. It's normal. It doesn't have anything special. But you can find it in all the uniqueness and diversity of each human being at the same time, which is beautiful. And yeah, I guess it draws us back to our life is so not one-dimensional. But at the same time, we have chosen to experience the depth of life, like the deepest depth that life can offer. We have chosen that path, and we all know people that are relating to life right now on a very superficial level. And I'm thoroughly understanding that it's okay to let them there if they don't want to go deeper right now. And they're with God, and they'll eventually want more because they'll meet their twin flame in this lifetime, or because they would be tired of the short highs of life, and they will want something more meaningful. I think people are slowly getting there more and more, or we are understanding that a lot more people that we were aware of in the past want things that are deeper from life right now. But yeah, to each your own path. I guess it's okay.
So I just want to check in with the rest of the team. How are you guys feeling right now? Any insights here?
Something you brought up that made me think about something. You don't really see many interracial relationships that are, let's say, the ages 50 and older, because it is taboo, technically, especially with history that has happened. And I think maybe the reason why you see more interracial relationships at a younger age, maybe is because they're, how can I say this? They're not too, well, for two reasons. They're not very close-minded, and also because they're not so very hung on to past history events and the way different mentalities were and things like that. However, there are situations like Matt James and Rachel, if you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's about it.
What's that story about?
Pardon?
What is that story about?
What story?
What were the names of these people? Like,
Oh, Matt James and Rachel?
James? Yeah.
You don't remember the thing about the Bachelor, who was a Black man, ended
Oh,
up getting the girl who did a racist, yeah, that girl.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not my national TV, so I guess I forgot. But okay, right.
They got back together, if you don't know.
Interesting. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, about that. Yeah, I see. I
Yeah,
get
that's a very touching topic. So I mean, that's his choice, honor his choice, respect his choice. So
more broadly about the subject. Yeah, I guess in the United States, like people from the older generations have obviously seen the civil rights movement and are still feeling things that they experience directly from that history. Um, and I think like people like millennials and people from Gen Z would be more prone to diversity, especially with what we're seeing in the social media. But obviously, there are still some young
yeah,
people that are carrying like the patterns of
I
separation.
think I think that the baby boomers are more they're less patient. They
Less
don't
patient.
really less patient in the sense of um explaining the black man, the black woman to a white man and white woman,
Yeah,
that kind of thing. They don't really have the patience for that. That's also a reason. So it's close-mindedness, less patience,
I get
and
it.
just very, yeah.
I get it. Yeah. And same with like young people that are white or non-infected by racism. They're more prone to be open-minded today because it's their generation. Well, so I guess like we're having a lot of compassion and surrender tonight about everyone else's experiences. Um, so yeah, don't judge kids. Don't judge. Black love or non-black love has nothing to do with it. It's just love.
Yeah, I think for me, what came up for me when Eurene was talking about like being attracted to like physical traits and like on the outside, like what was coming up for me was like not seeing love as outside of you, but like seeing love as within you. And then when you see that like love comes within, then like you can just be like, oh well, like I just love this person, you know, and I love them because of the inner qualities, right? Not because of the outside qualities. And that's kind of like the concept of twin flames, right? Is because like we recognize our twin flame with our hearts and on the inside. And so it's kind of like we're breaking that pattern of like people going after a partner because of like, you know, their skin color or how they look or, you know, all this stuff on the outside. Um, so I don't know. I was just bringing that up for me. Like it's such an important thing to be healing too, right? Is like realizing that like love is a within thing, and we all have that, and we can use that knowledge to identify our partner rather than like the outside factors. Because if we just use the outside, then we can easily be like, I don't know, like fooled or like not fooled. I don't know what the word is I'm trying to say, but it's like we can easily like anybody can be our twin flame if that makes sense, right? And then you know you're not really kind of listening to like what your heart wants, but you're listening to like your mind, if that makes sense. I don't know, but that's just what it was bringing up to me. And listening to your mind in the sense of like, oh well, if I'm like black, I'm supposed to be with like a black man or a black woman, you know, if that makes sense, rather than oh I'm just supposed to be with somebody that I love and it doesn't matter what they look like. So that's what I got.
Yeah, I like what you said, because one of the things that like I've noticed quite a bit in the past was how couples tend to at some point start to look like each other. And it's like, what is happening? Like, you know, like at some point they almost morph into looking like each other, and sometimes even choosing people that look very similar to them. And it's, you know, like for the longest time, it was one of the things that I just kind of noticed amongst people. And I noticed it even more amongst gay men. Like they seem to just, but it's literally that they actually seem to look for themselves in a partner. It was the most uncanny thing. And I was like, what is that about? So I love that you bring up the fact that you bring it back to what is the core? What is the core of love here? And where does your love exist? And how, in finding where your love exists on the inside, you can recognize the love of the person that you are designed to be with, regardless of their physical form. Like it feels like a much healthier progression for me in terms of where I would like my life to be and go.
When Drake was talking, there was also this question that was brought up in me, I guess, that an implicit question that was brought up by that post about Black love is that if I'm dating outside my race, would I even be accepted? And so there's a lot of like vulnerability and insecurities that people have to heal. Not only because like these are past hurts that originates from our history, but also because it impacts our way of living, our happiness, and our choice of a partner, which we all know is very important for living the life of your dreams. So yeah, I feel like once you start to uncover like that uncomfortable feeling, yeah, you get better at it, at being enlightened. And I actually seeing past color while interacting with people, I find.
I definitely think it goes to the core of healing past the judgment. And it's not even that it's the external judgment. It's that energy of self-judgment based on the need for external acceptance, where we've gotten to the point where we know a lot better how to heal acceptance in the first place. And so again, like I feel like a lot of our conversation has literally come full circle to the energy of fully healing acceptance. So I'm just going to ask you, any concluding thoughts? We literally have reached our hour. Cool. So thank you for the conversation today, and thank you to everybody that's joined us. And also, please feel free to like and subscribe to our Church of Union YouTube channel, where you will find all our previous conversations that have taken place in our Unionism Spiritual Discussion Group on Facebook. And all this that's the series of conversation in the Black Lives Matter conversation that we've been having. And we'd like to invite you to please join us again next week as we delve deeper into this conversation. and heal at a greater level. So thank you, everybody.